There's a quiet moment every morning before the noise begins, before the world remembers your name. That small space between waking and thinking. Most people fill it instantly with scrolling, worrying, planning, comparing. But the Stoic learns to guard it, because what you tell yourself in those first moments determines how your day unfolds and who you become through it. You may not realize it, but every day begins with a conversation, the one you have with yourself, and this conversation can either build your inner strength or drain it before you've even started. When your first thoughts are complaints, doubts, and what-ifs, you hand your peace to the day before it even asks for it. But when your first words are deliberate, when they come from wisdom, not fear, you step into the world like a man who has already won half his battles in silence. The mind is not your enemy. It's the tool that will either serve you or destroy you, depending on how you command it. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself of what he could control, not people, not events, but his own response. And that's where your power lies too. The world does not shape your peace, your words do. So ask yourself, when you wake, what do you say to yourself first? Do you begin in gratitude or complaint, in focus or distraction, in calm or chaos? Every morning is a mirror, and what you speak into it becomes your reflection for the day. Because you don't rise unshakable by accident, you rise by what you repeatedly tell yourself when no one else is listening. The Stoics believed that strength begins in language, not the kind spoken aloud, but the silent words carved into your mind. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher, began each day reminding himself of who he was, what he stood for, and what he could control. He didn't pray for an easy life. He prepared for a difficult one, with calm resolve. 5 simple words can shift the weight of an entire day, not because they change reality, but because they realign your perception of it. Words are anchors. And every morning you must choose where to drop yours. The first anchor is I am calm, not because life is calm, but because you choose to meet it calmly. It's a quiet declaration of power, the decision not to let emotion dictate your energy. As Seneca wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Calmness is not the absence of storms, but the ability to remain still while they rage around you. The second anchor is I am capable. The mind forgets how strong it is when faced with uncertainty. Remind yourself you've survived everything so far. Doubt is not a prophecy. It's a shadow that vanishes when you move toward the light of action. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. The third is I am focused. In a world of constant noise, focus is rebellion. You train your mind to ignore what drains you and attend to what builds you. This is where Stoicism and modern psychology meet. Focus is mindfulness, presence, and discipline woven together. You can't control every outcome, but you can control your attention, and that's where peace begins. The fourth is I am enough. This one cuts deepest because the modern world thrives on your insecurity. But Stoicism teaches detachment from external validation. You don't need to prove your worth, only to live it. Your value is in your character, not your image, in your effort, not your applause. And the fifth, perhaps the most powerful, I am temporary. A reminder that all things, good or bad, will pass. That today, too, will fade into memory, and that awareness frees you. When you remember your impermanence, you stop clinging. You stop wasting your days in fear, anger, and comparison. You begin to live. These 5 words, calm, capable, focused enough, temporary are not affirmations. They are foundations, a mental armor forged in wisdom, not wishful thinking. Each one turns chaos into clarity. Each one silences the noise and returns you to yourself. Because true Stoic strength is not built in the gym or the battlefield or the boardroom. It's built every morning in silence before the day begins. Even when you know the words, the practice isn't easy. There are mornings when your mind feels like a battlefield, when the weight of yesterday still sits on your chest. When your first thought isn't peace, it's pressure. And that's where most people lose themselves before the day even begins. You wake up, reach for your phone, and within seconds your peace belongs to someone else. A message, a post, a reminder of what you lack, it hijacks your focus before you've even taken your first breath of silence. The Stoics warned against this. They knew the danger of letting the outside world enter before your inner world is ready. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you rise unwillingly, have this thought ready: I am rising to the work of a human being." But that's hard to remember when your mind has been trained for distraction. The modern mind is overstimulated but undercentered. You can scroll for hours, think for minutes, and feel lost for days. Your body is here, but your attention is everywhere else. And each morning that begins in chaos, you lose a small piece of your strength. You tell yourself you're tired, but it's not physical fatigue, it's mental leakage. Energy spent worrying about what hasn't happened, regretting what's already gone. Your inner dialogue becomes polluted, not by truth, but by noise. You start to believe the world's voice over your own. You think, I'm behind. I'm not doing enough. Everyone's moving faster. But the Stoic mind does not chase speed. It seeks stillness. And stillness is rare today, which is why peace feels like a luxury. You might look at others who seem calm and assume they're lucky. But no one is born calm. Calm is trained the same way discipline is trained. It's not gifted to you by life. It's built within you through repetition and awareness. You fall, you react, you regret. Then you start again, stronger, quieter, wiser. That's how inner mastery is formed. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And courage begins when you stop being ruled by your emotions, when you stop being a slave to every feeling that visits your mind. Most people let their first thought decide the tone of their day. A single worry spirals into a storm of negativity. But the Stoic steps back. They observe that thought without obeying it. They recognize this is just a feeling, not a fact. They breathe. They return to the words that anchor them: calm, capable, focused, enough, temporary. The inner conflict never truly ends. It simply grows quieter as you strengthen your awareness. The goal is not to silence your thoughts, but to command them with understanding. Each morning you are at war, not with the world, but with the undisciplined part of yourself. And the way you win that war is with silence, patience, and the words you choose to live by. There comes a morning, one that looks like every other. Same bed, same light, same world outside your window, but something subtle shifts within you. You wake up, and before your mind can reach for the noise, you pause. That pause, small, almost invisible, is the beginning of your freedom. You don't check your phone. You don't think about the list waiting for you. You just breathe once deeply, and in that breath you remember, the world doesn't begin until you allow it to. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For the first time, you feel what that means. The realization is quiet, but powerful, the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. You begin to see that peace was never something you had to find. It was something you had to protect. You start to notice how fragile your attention is, how easily it drifts toward distraction. You realize that every morning you're not guarding your mind, something else is claiming it: fear, comparison, or impulse. But today you take it back. You speak the first of your 5 words slowly, deliberately. Each word feels like a command to your mind, a reprogramming of the way you face the day. Each one carries the energy of the Stoics: calm, clarity, control, and suddenly the noise loses its power. It doesn't disappear, but it no longer decides how you feel. You see the same problems, but they no longer overwhelm you. You feel the same emotions, but they no longer command you. You are learning to stand still within the storm, not by running from it, but by anchoring yourself in wisdom. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Now, those words stop being philosophy, they become your reality. You start to understand the true art of emotional control, not suppression, not pretending, but the quiet mastery of choosing your inner state before the world can choose it for you. You begin to wake each morning as a warrior of calm, not aggressive, not loud, but deliberate. Your mind becomes a temple, not a marketplace. You no longer let every passing thought enter. You select what deserves space in your consciousness. That's when people begin to notice. They see the shift but can't explain it. Your silence begins to speak louder than your words ever did. Your calm presence unsettles those still ruled by chaos. They may test you, provoke you, try to pull you back into the noise, but you no longer react the same. Because now you've tasted control, and once you've felt what it's like to master your own mind, nothing else feels more powerful. You've entered the turning point, the moment when awareness turns into discipline, and peace becomes your natural response. The morning no longer owns you, you own the morning, and in that simple truth lies the foundation of an unshakable mind. The morning is your battlefield, not against others, but against the weaker parts of yourself. And every day before the world begins, you have a choice: to wake up and drift into noise, or to wake up and command your mind. The Stoics believed that how you start the day determines how you live it. Marcus Aurelius began each dawn by reminding himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but none of them can harm me. He didn't say this to complain. He said it to prepare, to choose peace before life could test it. So you start to build your own ritual, your 5 words. 5 short affirmations that anchor your spirit before the world can shake it. They're not magic, they're reminders, mental armor. The first word, calm. Before anything else, breathe. Not every problem deserves your energy. Not every noise deserves your reaction. Your calm is your power. Protect it like a warrior guards his sword. The second word, focus. Direct your attention where it matters. If you chase everything, you build nothing. The mind becomes powerful when it learns to say no. Focus is not about doing more, it's about protecting your direction. The third word, control. Control doesn't mean suppressing emotion, it means mastering it. Feel everything, but act from reason, not reaction. As Seneca wrote, no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Control is not coldness, it's inner strength in motion. The fourth word, gratitude, and not the soft, decorative kind, the kind that keeps you steady when life turns against you. When things go wrong, say quietly to yourself, I'm still here, I'm still breathing, I can still choose how to respond. Gratitude turns pain into perspective. And the fifth word, faith, and not blind belief, but trust in the process. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of one's fate. You stop fighting what you can't control and begin to trust that every challenge carries purpose, even when you don't see it yet. 5 words, that's all it takes to set your mind right. You don't need an app or a guru or a 10-step system. You need awareness and repetition each morning. You repeat these words not to believe them instantly, but to become them slowly. You carve them into your mind like stone. And over time, they start to shape the way you think, speak, and act. You'll still have bad days. You'll still stumble. But the difference is, you'll rise faster, because your mind won't crumble with the first wave of chaos. A Stoic doesn't wait for life to be easy. He trains for it to be difficult and stays calm anyway. He repeats the words until they become reflex, until the storms come, and he doesn't flinch. This is the real practice. The quiet, daily discipline of thought. You're not chasing motivation, you're building identity. Each morning, you remind yourself who you are. Each morning, you return to the battlefield and win before the world even begins. Because strength isn't built in the noise. It's built in the silence before it. There comes a morning when you no longer need to remind yourself. The words still live in your mind: calm, focus, control, gratitude, faith, but they are no longer spoken as affirmations. They breathe quietly inside you, they become you. You wake up and the air feels still. The world is the same, the noise, the pressure, the uncertainty, but something within you has shifted. You no longer rush into your thoughts. You observe them. You no longer chase control. You simply are in control. This is when Stoicism stops being a philosophy and starts being your nature. You don't have to think about being calm. You've trained your nervous system to rest in stillness. You don't have to fight for focus. You've stopped scattering your mind on what doesn't matter. And when life pushes, as it always will, you bend, but you don't break. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." You begin to understand that every challenge, every delay, every loss was part of your training. Each moment you chose calm over anger, focus over distraction, faith over doubt. You were sharpening your soul. Now, peace doesn't depend on silence. You can be calm in the middle of chaos. You can smile at setbacks because you've learned they can't touch what's eternal inside you. You can walk through storms knowing the wind only tests what's strong enough to stand. And when the world looks at you, it won't see perfection. It will see steadiness. It will see someone who's not easily shaken, someone whose peace no longer depends on how things go, but on how they choose to go through them. Because the 5 words were never just words, they were seeds. Each morning you watered them with presence, and now they've grown into something that cannot be taken away. Calm, not as a reaction, but as a default. Focus, not forced, but natural. Control, not rigid, but graceful. Gratitude, not a habit, but a heartbeat. Faith, not a wish, but wisdom. You've become mentally untouchable not by escaping life, but by mastering how you live it. Epictetus said, "No man is free unless he is master of himself." And now you see what he meant. Freedom was never out there, in wealth, status, or comfort. It was in your ability to stay still while the world spins, to think clearly when others react, to walk through uncertainty with quiet faith. You began this journey searching for strength, but what you found was peace, not the kind that waits for everything to be perfect, but the kind that remains even when nothing is. So, each morning, as the light breaks through your window, You no longer repeat the 5 words with effort. You just live them, and the world begins again, loud, fast, unpredictable, but you move through it softly, unafraid, untouchable, because true power was never in conquering the world, it was in mastering yourself. Final reflection: peace is not something you chase, it's something you train for every morning.